questions on other stream. Like we're watching across my stream and the People with a Passion one, so you can watch yours. I'm watching my personal page. It has less people watching on that one. So, but I do get people saying hello. So, all right, mate, we're going live. So. G'day everyone, thanks for joining us tonight on People with a Passion, live streaming with friends. Today I'm being joined by Mitchell McCarron, or Mitch McCarron, or Macca, as he's affectionately known in basketball circles. Thanks for being here, Macca.
No worries, thanks for having me on.
Really appreciate your time tonight. For those that are joining us, we're live streaming tonight on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. So if you're on any of the People with a Passion platforms, then make sure you log into those and check us out. You can join the conversation in the chat. If you're on Facebook, strongly encourage you to start a watch party. So the way you do that is you go to the People with a Passion page and you see the video. You can go share the video, or it may have the start watch party button there, depending on which platform you're on. If you hit share, if you don't see the start watch party, you hit share and it should give you the option. Once you hit share, it'll ask, do you want to start a watch party? If you still don't see it, then up the top right, when you share the video, there's 3 dots. It should also offer you the option to start a watch party. So depending on the browser or the platform you're on, that should be doable. If you do just share it, it still will share it with friends, but you'll just be part of the People with a Passion conversation. But I hope you've worked it out there, Macca. Did you have a bit of a play?
Yeah, I think we're streaming.
Nice, awesome.
I'm a rookie on the social media, but I think we're good.
All right, so I'll start my stream and everything. So tonight I strongly encourage you to, if you know Mitch or you don't, and you're an athlete who's interested, Mitch has an awesome journey. We can start anywhere, I guess, with your journey, but AIS, Metro State, Australian representative, NBL. There's many aspects to what you've done in your short career already. Played for 2 clubs, so in the NBL, and you've also played in Europe. So let's talk a little bit tonight about. Well, firstly, congratulations on your marriage recently. We'll talk about. I'd like to talk about that first because that's an experience that some people have had, but you streamed that. So how was that wedding experience for you, given the crisis?
Yeah, it was crazy for us. A lot of stress, especially for my wife. We had something planned over in Europe, and we were supposed to be getting married in Mallorca in May, but unfortunately with COVID and everything going on, we had to cancel that. So we ended up doing it. Our friends, ex-neighbors, were our witnesses. So we just went to their backyard, set up. It was a good little setup for what we did, but yeah, we just wanted to get married. That was the main thing, and we streamed all the family and friends in on Zoom, and it was special.
You said you had about 90 people on Zoom, so that's a good little audience for your wedding. So what was the process of to do that? Was helping you with that, or did you pay someone to do that to help you with the stream?
We basically did it ourselves. I mean, it was very, very basic. Just put it on the laptop, Zoom stream. Very simple, but we had some people that helped out. We kind of had to manage because at that stage, there was only 5 people in a house at one time. So we managed when we had someone who was bringing flowers or a photographer, and we were like, yeah, you can come at 10, you come at 10:30 or whatever. So that kind of tricky. But in the end, it was special just to have our witnesses, the celebrant, and us there for the thing.
That's awesome. So well done on all the preparations and making that happen that special day. Something that no doubt down the track will be telling family, friends, and potentially kids. So, of course, yeah. So let's get on to some basketball stuff because I know a lot of people watching will be keen to know some things. I want to start backwards before I want to go back a little bit because you also had a recently, in the last 18 months on your knee. How's it been going for you?
Yeah, it's been going well. It's been a weird time in the off season because usually I'd be just to play basketball all the time. I don't usually rest too much in the off seasons. I know some athletes like to play, some like to take a full month off to recover. It's kind of been a forced recovery. There's just no leagues to play in. So it's been good for my knee. I've got back to basics and really just really basic exercises, stuff that you're doing if you've never lifted weights before, but just building that strength base up again, and then working on my hips, which has always been a weak part in my flexibility and strength in there. So for me, it's been a weird time, but it's also been a good time just to stay fit in a different way and find a way to get motivated for workouts that I'd usually never do.
So what have you been doing? You've been hitting the gym and stuff, have you? Is that something you've been doing more of?
Not
Or
so
just
much
as
the
much?
gym, just because I haven't had access to that either.
Hmm.
So it's been more at home, a lot more into my band work, which is something that you see a lot online now, but it's something that I've really enjoyed. Just working with different kinds of bands and a few dumbbell things here and there, but just a lot of body strength and core strength stuff rather than the traditional powerlifting, squats that we would do during season.
Biting at the bit of you to get going again as an athlete? It's like, what's it doing mentally right now for you not being able to play the game
Oh,
in the
it's
way?
been weird, really weird. Especially where I feel like I should be heading into somewhat the prime of my career, 27, 28, 29. So I really just want to play basketball. I want to get out there and make the most of it. And it sucks that we all have to sit at home and not be able to play. But everybody's in the same boat in pretty much every country around the world. So luckily we have it pretty good here in Australia. I mean, yes, there's been some damage to the economy and some impact on basketball, but certainly not like other countries are facing. So we'll be back before some of them.
Yeah, so that's good. So I'll get you to have a quick look in your watch party and see if you've got any shout outs. And I'd encourage anyone who may be joining to actually put in a question or throw a question in the chat. We have Mark helping tonight in another room as a producer, pushing buttons and checking chat. So he'll be running in from some shout outs as well. So, Mac, have you got anyone hello or anyone you want to say hello to that's joined your party?
Yeah, got a few waves here from Mary Morton, actually an old high school teacher who always stays in touch, which is really nice. Nathan Charles, Adam Purvis, old friends, and then Emma Van Dawson, some lovely people up in Cairns who looked after me. Her family was great to me up in Cairns. And Jason, who is a very proud Melbourne United supporter at every game and loves seeing the guys after games.
That's awesome. So I've got a couple of here. I've my eye docking. I just don't. I refuse to wear my glasses on on camera. So Jordan Kinnard and Nathan Jennings, who is signed with the Portable Network, which is my podcast network I've established. Uh, David Burnett, who I coach with, so g'day Richard Balaffi, Australian New Zealand basketball scout. Some of we've had interactions with him. So we've got the Bagries, we've got Fanfare, so they're in one of my chat windows. So out to all those that are joining in those. The people passion, I'm not looking at that stream tonight. Mark, who is our producer, he's come on board as a producer. I actually have a producer now, sounds exciting. so encourage you to ask a question or throw a question at us. I got shared a nice little video today, actually. I wish I have the technology, but I haven't yet got the technology to throw the video up. But it's from 2011 under 20s of someone leading a warm up. It's Anthony Corcoran sent through to me today. I wish I could share it, but I encourage people to go up, and it's on YouTube. So I don't know whether it's actually, is it public? It is public on YouTube, actually.
I think it's out there. Not people wouldn't know what to research, but it's out there.
So I'll encourage people to check later on my YouTube video of this show, this episode, because I will share the video of Mitch leading a quite entertaining warm up with his teammates, which gives a new definition to warm up. So how long did it take you to choreograph your warm up, mate?
It's not mine. It kind of is getting passed along. And looking back, it's like, man, it would be stupid for doing that. But at the time, I think I think it started when I was on 16s, maybe. Louis Ilton was
Mm-hmm.
like captain of our team. Christopher Richies was coaching that group. And we were stuck for court, supposed to get on a court at a certain time, and I guess it was double booked. And this was like before we'd had a game or anything at 16 or under 18 nationals, sorry. And so we were all like, all right, well, we need to get warm because it was freezing cold down in Ballarat. And we were like, oh, man, we need to do something. The other team hasn't finished training. And so he just goes, all right, guys, like I'll lead a little aerobics session. And we're all just messing around. And it was lame, but it was kind of funny just to jump around. Anyway, it became like this pre-game tradition. I don't know why, but every time, like, again, we were freezing in Ballarat, so we just wanted to stay warm, but there were no courts to go shoot on. So the boys would just all get in this formation and do a bit of a aerobics workout before the coaches talk, and everything got serious. So it was a good way to get everyone loose and give some energy back to the group. And I guess it just kept going. My age group anyway. It was funny.
Yeah, so that's a memory back to 2011. One of the things is that's a shared memory. Like it takes you back to those moments that you share with others on your basketball journey, and what a journey you've had. So obviously, what do you think shaped your experience what's the experience that shaped you the most, do you think, to the athlete you are today? Where did you do most of your learning? Because obviously you had the AIS, you've had college with the Metro State, and obviously you've been in Europe. Like I know they're all jigsaw pieces that make up a whole player, but where was the most impact, do you feel, that you developed your game, the majority of your game?
Yeah, so many different times that I can look back on and say I got better then. I think top age under 18s, I really started to kind of change my mentality into perhaps understanding my true role and value to that team. At the time we were a strong Brisbane Capitals team, and we ended up having a really good season. I mean, we went undefeated and won the state classics, but it was because guys really bought into their role. And one of our star players, Corbin Rowe, had gone to the AIS at the time, so we'd lost a scorer. And I guess I considered it my job to step up and score more. It's something that I'd done a lot as a junior. So from that point on, I really started trying to score more in team trainings. And I guess as the year went on, I got better at it. And by the end of the year, I was probably one of the better scorers in the league. So my own confidence was someone who never used to shoot that much, but score that much. It was kind of good to see some development there.
Mm. So that probably taught you a lot too about role recognition. That when a vacuum's there or something's not being done in a team, because you're probably, someone messaged today, it was a comment on the post saying that they consider you one of the best rebounding guards in the league. So, your athleticism is deceptive, and I even think in the game a couple of years ago against Lebanon, you dunked the ball or did something spectacular, and the commentators didn't see it coming. So I think there's a deceptiveness about your athleticism. Do you think people know the scout now? It's like,
Yeah, it's dying off quickly. But I think I've always enjoyed rebounding. It's something that I just enjoyed being around the action. And as a kid, I think it was just a way to start a fast break. You know, if you get as a guard, and this, it hasn't changed as a professional. You know, as a guard, if you can go get defensive rebound, then you start that fast break. A lot of coaches, especially in our part of the world, enjoy that style of play where it's a quick and you can get things going. So I think when I went to college, that was again another way for me to get a touch on the ball early in the offense. And as my strength grew and as my athleticism grew, I got better at it. But it was just another way to somewhat compete in an area. You know, if I can go challenge a big on their team for a rebound, that's something other than shooting the ball that I can go compete in.
yeah. So let's talk a little about Metro State. What an experience! What a ride for you. You took your team. How many times did you guys make the NCAA Div 2 finals?
Uh, we made the tournament every
Tournament.
single year.
Mm.
Um, D2 works a little differently, I guess you would say. there's making the tournament, and then the Elite Eight is really what I consider finals.
Yeah.
So we made the Elite Eight first 3 out of 4 years. In a year, we knocked out first game of the tournament, but my freshman year I redshirted, so I didn't play, but I went along on the trip and got knocked out in the Elite Eight. And next year we lost the national championship game by 2, and my junior year we lost the national semi by 2. So it was a rough ending to a lot of those seasons, but yeah, we were so spoiled with winning. We won so many games.
So you got the national, it was a National American Basketball Coaches Award for the NCAA Div 2. So basically the Player of the Year for the NCAA Div 2. Did you know that based on your season or seasons? I guess it is it's that season, but it accrues over the course of your career. Did you feel, is that something you're aware of before it's awarded? Like, do you get a feel for it, or is it just announced?
I knew the award existed because my team had won it the year before. And Mark Worthington, who had gone through Metro, had won it before. So they, going into Metro State with the history of Australians that they had and successful ones, they were always like, well, this is who you should try and be like. And so I think then seeing BJ win it when I was a junior and he was a senior, it was really cool to see, our school and our program rewarded for the hard work that we do and the games that we won. I did not expect to win it at all senior year. Nick Kay and I pretty much had identical stats for 2 years straight. It could have easily have gone to him. There were a few other guys around the country that went a little bit further than we did, who were damn good. So I was very lucky to win it, but obviously very grateful.
That's awesome. So I've got a shout out from Marcus and Mum and I watching. So that's Nikki.
Hey
Yep, Nikki is it Borbard? I'll go shout out to Mark, who's my producer. Right, I'm gonna teach him to write a little bit better. So and Richard Balafi saying g'day too. So g'day, shout out to Richard. And there's others who have joined us. Jess Cicluna used to coach with me. She's a wizard. So you had a couple of stints with Northside Wizards, and your dad is doing great work at the Northside Wizards as their coaching director. So I've got a lot of time with your dad. I actually worked at BQ for a while, for a couple of years back in the day when he was I believe he was head of South at the time, and then there was Greg Fox, and I was working with a program that Greg Fox was running. So I've known your dad a long time, and he does a lot of great work out at the club. And you played for that club for a couple of seasons, so and with your teammate from Metro State, Nick Kay. So right now, you guys are in opposing teams all the time in the NBL. Do you ever think there's a chance down the track in your hopefully long careers that you'll be on the court together again? Is that something you've ever about?
Yeah, a little bit. Nick is so easy to play with. You can obviously tell by watching the way that he plays and his versatility. It's one of his major strengths. But having spent 4 years with him in college, on how fun it is and how easy he makes the game at times. So he'd be an asset, to any team I'm playing on. It'd be great to have him as well. Obviously, his worth has gone through the roof after his last few years, and so it should. We were actually pretty close. Before I had signed with Cairns, I had actually signed with the Crocs before they folded, so we would have been playing together in Townsville. But then I went to Cairns, and he went to Illawarra, and he's just taken off since, and he's doing really well for that Wildcats program.
Yeah, I think he's definitely the amazing thing with Wildcats. You talk about roles that guys play. It seems that their players slot in wherever they get a new player. They just seem to fit into that program, and it comes down, I guess, to what talked about when you talk about the Brisbane team that you played in is guys that just buy in. Like when you go undefeated, it doesn't happen unless there's a degree of unselfishness. And I've seen you play. Like obviously, NBL programs want unselfish players. If there's any athletes watching, then I'd have to say, having seen you play, and Nick play in the same team at Northside Wizards several years ago, that you're very much team players, and they're the sorts of teams that are interested. So I'm not surprised you have the interest of Cairns and things. After your college career, you got you entered the draft, so you put your hand up for the draft, and you trained with about five, trialed with five NBA clubs. They were interested. So, do you want to talk to those clubs that you actually got a little look in, and what the experience was training with them and trialing rather? Like,
Yeah, it was. I don't have the official names for it. I guess the Denver one. I went to college in Denver, where we trained was literally across a road from the Pepsi Center. So we were in close proximity. They knew our coaching staff, and our coaching staff knew their coaching staff. All year, or all 3 years really, I'd been monitored, I guess, by them, not super closely, but they did know who we were. And so when I signed with my agent, and he had said Denver are interested in bringing you into what is, I guess, a local workout. So it was, guys from Colorado, guys from Colorado State. I think there was a guy from UNC. So there was just like a Colorado talent workout, I suppose you would call it. And I was fortunate enough to get an invite to that, just like Brandon Jefferson had received the year before me. So it was cool to go into that environment. It's different, it's obviously the level of athleticism is unreal. So you really have to, as a 6'3" guy, be certain of what you're doing at times, and I think you learn that pretty quickly when you start playing 1-on-1 and 2-on-2. That move that might have been okay a few weeks ago, that's not going to work anymore. So then I went over to the West Coast and did a few other ones with Golden State and Lakers and stuff like that, which was super fun. And it's the same thing. It just doesn't matter who's in the gym. They're going to be really good.
what was your expectations going into those trials? Because it's a big ask for a lot of guys come in from Div 1 teams and from overseas these days into the NBA. But Div 2, while they're obviously players circulating a lot of in the G League and things like that, what like what is it? What does it mean, and how hard is it to actually crack it at 6'3" to try and do that? Like you're getting a taste of what's expected. So, what are some of the workouts that they were putting you through to see what your abilities and capabilities are?
Most of them, again, they're only 1 hour long, so it's not. There wasn't a lot of, or some of them might have been an hour and a bit. But
Hmm.
for the most part, you did like a physical, so you did like a athletics test, check your body, check your wingspan, yada yada yada. And then you had about an hour on court, where the first 20 to 25 minutes was really warming, and then shooting drills. After that, you might do a few like little 1-on-1, 2-on-2 drills, and there was usually 6 guys in each workout. So you'd play a little bit of 1-on-1, 2-on-2. You'd do a little bit of passing, I guess, just to check handle and shooting. I mean, they really knew who guys were. They're not inviting guys into the gym and just saying, "Oh, let me see what they're like." They've been watching them for years. That's their scouts' job. So I think they know what they can do. They may want to find out a little bit more about them and how they carry themselves. And that was really my goal. I mean, I certainly wasn't expecting anything to come out of it. It was more just going in there and giving it what I've got and showing them that I'll compete. And if they ever look at how did Mitch McCann go? Well, he competed. So that's really all I wanted to go in there with. If I played really well, great. If I didn't shoot the ball, great. I just wanted to have fun and enjoy the experience.
Mm. And you surprised a few people, I think, because from memory, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm known to be wrong a lot, so I'm happy to be corrected. But if I'm wrong on this one, you made a decision that sort of threw people a little bit because you didn't come back to Australia and enter the NBL. You decided to take a stint in Europe. Is that correct? Like, was it a Spanish club?
Yeah, Palencia, Baloncesto. So I guess I didn't have a ton of offers back in Australia. I think the league at the time, it's obviously a super talented league, and for the role that as a guard, there just wasn't a ton of jobs available at the time. So I spoke with my agent, and he pretty much said, "Look, there's a gig in a few different European countries. We were looking at Poland pretty seriously, and then this offer came along from Palencia, and it wasn't incredible money, but it was really about the role and the team. And the team was going to be pretty good. There was a lot of experienced guys on that team, and it'd be a good introduction to European basketball because everything that he knew about the club was really, really good. And that was going to be important. My first year in Europe, you hear some horror stories
Mm.
about people being isolated and feeling very separated from their teammates in the club, and that was not my experience at all. I absolutely loved the Spanish guys were incredible, incredible hosts. The people in the town were incredibly nice. Really wanted to get to know me. Really wanted to get help in any way they could. Special shout out to Ruben, who was exceptional to me and my mother when she came to visit. So it was people like that that really helped me settle in. And then my teammates, as I said, were incredible in allowing me to fit in and helping me fit into the very different style of Spanish basketball. And I had to learn how to play without the ball and score.
I was going to ask the difference in what it taught you, the European going from college. Obviously, you had an experience coming through as juniors in Australia, so you do get a feel for the way we play. Then you got the college experience. Obviously, it's just training with the NBA, but you identify the next level or that level or potential level because you're still not against NBA athletes yet.
Mm-hmm.
Just against the guys that are looking for contracts. And then you go to Europe. What did that teach and how did that develop your game and how important do you think that was to you entering the NBL?
Yeah, it was very. I spent majority of the season working out of the corners. We had a lot of older guys. Our team, I think our starting five, our point guard was 33, 34. Our two-man was 34, 35. There was me, who was brand new. And then there was our four-man, our club captain, and he was about 34, 35. And then our center was about 39, 40.
Mm.
All of them could play. And I think they didn't want to play like this, which is really how I thought I would bring my value to the team, that energy guy. And I suppose it was in one way, but they weren't interested in playing like that all the time. So I really had to learn to read them. It was their team, and especially the four-man, Uko, he was an incredible passer. One knock that my dad probably had on me a lot when I was younger was that I wasn't a very good cutter. I wasn't very good at opening up space for myself and creating space for myself without the ball. I learnt a lot during the year just playing with Uko because of his ability to find you on back doors, and he would always look. So I think I learned a lot in that way, and just learning how to adjust my game to other people around me instead of just being like, well, if I can't play this way, I can't help.
Let's talk about your dad a little bit because he is an amazing man. Like hopefully one day he'll be in Hall of Fame for basketball, if not in Queensland somewhere. But I'll put him on my Hall of Fame because he's an absolutely brilliant man, and he's the way he's been involved in the sport in the Northern Territory, New South Wales, Queensland. They're just the places I know about. So, and what he's doing right now with North Side Wizards and the development of their girls program, and there's much needed work across the sport with girls, and he's really latched onto that, and he's had some success with the women's team. But what people don't see is the underlying development of the girls program at that particular club, and the influence and the impact that he has on those lives of those young girls, given it's not a female dominated sport. But let's talk about, you've got sister and brother, and yourself all gone through, and still going through basketball, not so much forgotten your brother, your brother Curtis. He's gonna hate that. So we play against Curtis. I hope that's no offence. Oh, he's got that thing where you just say that's Mitch's brother.
Yeah.
So sorry, Curtis. But yeah. So how influential growing you up in that household, as the term we use when you get kids floating around the stadiums is stadium rats. How influential was the experience of having a father so heavily involved in basketball, and what did it do for you and your development?
Yeah, I mean, it was a massive advantage and still is, to me, especially in terms of my basketball IQ. It definitely comes from my parents. I mean, my mum played as well and was extremely and is extremely competitive and often pushed me to do better. And my dad was instrumental in making sure that I continued to work on the right things and continued working on things. I mean, I don't think I've ever been an arrogant kid. I've always tried to keep my feet on the ground, but my dad was just really good at directing that and making sure there was something that I was working on that would reap some reward, whether it was just a move or, a certain type of shot, and always trying to correct my form. And I think that he gave a lot of effort and energy, even if we as kids sometimes were like, Dad, like, just leave me alone. But if he wasn't like that, I wouldn't be, where I am today. So, yeah, both of my parents have been instrumental in that.
So your mum actually, I hope she's watching tonight. I don't know if you want to check your stream and see who's in there and have a look at it, see if you've got any questions there, Macca, and see if you've got anyone. Just scroll down, and also if you've got any people you want to shout out to.
I got my nana. Shout out to my nana. She's in the chat. So a little slow. Oh yeah, let's see. Danielle from Cairns. I think that's all I can see. I'm a little slow on the updates.
That's right. So if you've got any questions for Mitch McCarron, our guest here on live streaming with friends tonight, then please drop a message in the chat. So I'm live streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. It's sort of, I should put that on as a tattoo. I say it that much. It's like so many platforms. But so thanks for being here. If you haven't yet subscribed to the YouTube channel, I do interviews with people about their passion. So this is the live streaming version of the YouTube channel, and this will be up on YouTube and Facebook when we're done. And then also you can like the Facebook page, People with a Passion. So if you're watching Mac's stream, then you can actually click and like the page later, and feel free to send a message or a comment. I'll just look at and see we've got Aaron Sprigg and Phil Wilson, Rory Johansson's in the group. We got Gavin De La Cruz from GDC Fitness, so shout out to him, basketball colleague there. Mark actually is an assistant to him, so that's the guy who's producing tonight. And Mark helps. We all work together coaching, so very, very I love Gavin a lot. I think he's doing great stuff here in Brisbane. Big Joe's just joined, bit of a icon in the NBL. So shout out to Big Joe. Do you have any Big Joe stories? Have you been on any tours or trips with Big Joe that you want to share?
I got a lot, but none that I can share.
that would be about right, wouldn't it, Big Joe? We've had some good stories. I spoke with Kadee and Joey Wright, so obviously there's been a couple already. So
I'm sure they've got a few.
So I'm hoping to speak to Nick next week. So all going well. So if you've got any stories about Nick, Nick Kay, or at least save him until next week. Ask him about the video. But hopefully he'll be able to join us next week. He said he should be able to, but I don't wait till I get you guys to sign on that dotted line to say you can. So how you went from Cairns to Melbourne United, and what's the difference going from one club to another, from the perspective of changing styles of play and things like that, and also making a decision to leave a club, like when you making the transition and saying what's best for you. What's that process like for you as an athlete?
Yeah, it's very individualized. Obviously, there's I enjoyed the hell out of my time in Cairns. I love the fan base. I was treated really well. There was a lot of people around the community that helped me out, as I mentioned, the Van Dawsons before, and so I loved the city. To be honest, 5 minutes everywhere. It was sweet, no traffic. Like, a lot that I loved about Cairns. I went to Slovenia. I was off contract, and I think that's where a lot of people probably get a little bit confused. Is that sometimes people often think, oh, well, there had to be a major reason why you would have hated that club, or you would have hated this person, or this and this and this and that. At the end of the day, we can only do this for a certain amount of time, and different clubs need different things. One guy might be really valuable to one club and not valuable at all to another, and that's just the world of professional sports. So I made the decision to sign with Melbourne United as a free agent, and I've loved what they've been able to not only do for me, but our life, together with my wife here in Melbourne, has been incredible since. So yeah, I think it's easy to get all worked up about, what's the drama behind that. I look back at my time in Cairns as 2 incredible years, and I've had 2 incredible years here in Melbourne.
So you've got a year on your contract still, I think. Is that right? You got 3-year contract. So hopefully you get into every club wants a grand final. So were you there when they won a couple of years ago, or would you come in the year after?
No, I came in and helped them lose one. So
That's
still need that trophy.
how hard is I've been in experiences where we've come close to winning a good grand final in just a lower league, and I'm not talking domestic, your regional comps and things,
Mhm.
and it eats away at me because it feels like it's a job undone. Do you feel like when you get that close that it just the burning desire then is because you got so close, you feel that it's something that you have to like it obviously is something you have to achieve. So how does that when you came so close motivate the athletes in your program? Like what are the sort of conversations around that?
Yeah, it's been I've been on a lot of successful teams, which I'm really grateful for. But even my time in college, and Nick will say the same thing. Like you get so used to winning, like I was said, we were spoiled before. It just becomes the standard, where you lose one game and you feel like the world's over. And we lost some massive games. The final, the semi-final, a quarter-final, whatever it was. Like
Mm,
they're all big games and they hurt. And then I remember being on the other end of the situation. Championship game in Spain, we win. Championship game in Slovenia, we slog out a 5-game series that was just like this.
mm,
And so I look back on those times, and they could have gone either way. One guy makes an incredible play at one stage and wins the game, and the rest of the game seems somewhat like irrelevant. It was just that time, that moment is all that matters. And then I lose a grand final series with Melbourne to Perth. And again, if we, do a few things a little different, maybe we give ourselves a better chance at winning that. So I look back on it now. At the time, it sucks, or you're in pure elation from winning. But looking back on it now, it's just all experience moving forward, and motivation moving forward for learning what we have in the past, and getting ready for another season.
mm. When Phoenix were announced as coming into the league, what did that do for the Melbourne United boys get to have a crosstown rival again?
Yeah, it was huge. I think Melbourne deserves and needs two teams. It's a big enough city, and I think basketball is pretty crazy down here, especially if you see the numbers in juniors basketball. There should be two professional teams, and Phoenix obviously got off to a super hot start, which helped fuel that rivalry a little bit. We had the first and last game of the season against them. They punked us in the first game, and then we ended up making finals by winning the last one. So it was a pretty dramatic series against them.
Yeah, so we got Craig Leaney, Brisbane uh, guy. So he says always admired the McCarron family. So do have a reputation around not just Queensland but other parts of the country. So amazing, amazing job from like both your parents. Actually, I've met your mum at the Larkins at sorry Nelson's 21st a couple of years back. So
And now engaged.
yes, yeah, Nelson Larkins engaged, absolutely. So they kept that secret for about a day. Karen, it's like, yeah. So that was pretty good. So yeah, so wedding coming up. They're also moving their skate park actually. Ramtack. They unbelievably they had a 10-year lease. I don't know whether you've seen that. And
Mm.
Doggy's literally pulled the whole thing down. He built it with his own
Wow.
two hands. He's wasn't a carpenter, but he's very good with his hands these days with that stuff. But and they're in a new building, looks a bit bigger, but hopefully they're fast tracking it. But he's got the boys working for him, so Nelson's out there, and Sammy's probably wants it to be there because that's probably
Yeah.
his legacy. He'll be taking it over one day. I actually interviewed him, so if anyone's watching, I interviewed Sam Larkins, whose dad played 16 years in the NBL. Wayne the Dog Larkins was an assistant with the Bullets, and Sam, his son, is a skater and he's a semi-pro, I suppose you could say. He's sponsored by Folklore, and I interviewed him, and there's a lot of tricks in that video. So that's called Create to Skate up on the YouTube channel. There's a number of good videos and interviews up on the YouTube channel if you want to check it out later. We got Matt Horn jumped in the thing. Nick Kay's joined. I wonder who that is. So shout out to Nick. So, Nick, if you're still there, it says he's joined, but if he's there, hopefully you got my message about confirming yourself as next week's guest. So,
Okay.
yeah, so Mac is saying, come on, Nick. So, Mac, if you just tuned in, Mac has been telling a whole heap of stories about your mate. So, So your turn next week. Um, if you've got a question for Mitch, then please take time to send it through on the chat. So we are watching the chats. Have you got any questions there, Mitch? Do you want to respond to?
Just my auntie blowing me up asking who's my favorite auntie. That's about it.
Okay. Are you going to answer that one?
Oh yeah,
Get
not
it.
her.
That's it. So, um, if so, let's talk about training regime. So, outside of COVID, what are you doing? What's a day? I think you did a video actually that was put up on United that showed your day. Is that still up on the site?
Yeah, yep, it is. We're talking outside of COVID.
Yeah, outside of COVID, your daily. So if there's athletes are watching, I run a basketball program here called Ozswoosh here in Brisbane, or when there's no COVID, that's what I run. And I'm in schools, and some of my athletes have joined, and part of the things they join. I'm speaking. They don't tend to watch the coaches, which I think they should. But when I'm speaking to an NBL player, they tend to tune in. So, which is pretty cool. But so let's talk some basketball stuff that athletes might be interested in. So what's your day in? Let's talk preseason then season, and then you were talking about off season, what some guys do. Let's talk about what Mitch McCarron does in the season. So break it down into those three things.
Start with preseason. Preseason's pretty hectic. From a club standpoint, obviously we're getting everything organised for the season, getting everything in line as players. We're priming ourselves to endure, our bodies especially for the season. So that's typically when we're hitting the weights the hardest. We're doing our conditioning. We're doing a lot of shooting and individuals, especially in the early part of preseason. We're really priming our bodies to handle game after game after game. And then we start to change a little bit and go into team practice. Once everyone's in town, we can have even more detail in that team practice. Obviously, we have to wait for imports and Aussies who have been playing elsewhere to join the team, and we can really solidify what we're doing as a group and how we look. And then after that, we obviously head into the season, start to play some preseason games and preseason tournaments, and training starts to back off a little bit. And instead of maybe going 5 days a week, maybe go 4, and the fifth day is a bit more of a shooting and technical training rather than a full-on playing training. And then it's pretty much just load management from that standpoint. Every guy is different. The young guys are going to be getting their individuals, and guys who maybe don't play as much might be keen for more practice, so they get that hit. Whereas a guy who's playing 35 to 40 minutes and maybe he's a little bit older and a veteran of the league doesn't necessarily need that at this point of his career. So he might spend a bit more time in the weight room, whether it's stretching. David Bolu stretches more than any man I've ever met. And that's what he needs for himself to be ready. So each guy, and as a professional, this is where it's a little bit different to juniors. Each guy is different, and you have your things where everyone needs to be in on it, and then other than that, work around everybody else. And then as we get to postseason, obviously that's when really the games are the hit outs. You might have 1 or 2 really hard trainings, but a lot of it is scout, a lot of it is mental, just so you're physically freshened after a season. And then off season is the same thing. You might take a little bit of a break depending on who you are. It might be a month, it might be 2 weeks, it might be 1 week. You go off to your off-season teams if you've signed. You'll still work on your weights. You might change how you lift. Maybe you've spoken with your strength and conditioning guys and you want to lift and put on, 5 kilos. So that will change how you lift over the off-season. So each guy just chases their own program, really.
Hmm. So do you work out with other athletes as well? Like, do you sort of say to your teammates, "Hey, do you want to get together and do stuff," or is it more organized than that, or is it a bit of that?
It's a bit of both. You'll have organized sessions, but it's nothing crazy. Typically, over the off season, we'll still have, I guess, a United team shooting, but it's really again individualized. If I have a niggly calf, there's a chance I'm not going to do it because I might need something else, and I'm not required to be at that shooting session. other guys will be getting up 500 shots because that they really need. So we do have organized sessions with coaches, and especially the assistant coaches really get a chance over the off season to work on, individuals with guys, and it's not, Dean kind of takes a step back and really helps them get some time with the players one-on-one and two-on-two. So it's a good chance for them to develop their coaching skills as well.
So you talk about load management, and you made that reference. Some people that are watching may not be aware of what that actually means and how important that is at a professional level. So do you want to do a little bit of an explanation around what, when you talk about load management, what we're actually referring to there?
Yeah, it's a bit of a controversial topic at times,
That's why I'm
especially
throwing that, yeah.
talking about the NBA players, quite specifically. But really, it's about obviously as we advance in time and with exercise science and finding out how much do our bodies need, how long do we need to be on court to get the max out of a session, how long is too long. And I think we've gotten to a point now where we understand it's better to go hard and fast, and it might be an hour and a half, but that hour and a half you're going, rather than a 3-hour session where you spend half the time kind of walking, or maybe you stop. For a guy who's, especially guys who are starting to get older in their careers and they've had a lot of games under their belt, a ton of training under their belt, they don't need stop-start for 3 hours a day every day of the week. That's not good for them. It's not good for the tendons, and it's not good for the joints. So it's better to warm up properly, go for it for an hour, hour and a half. Everybody is at 100%, and then you cool it off. If you're a younger guy, your load management program will be a little bit different because you don't need that rest that someone else might. So you might go get more shots. And there's science and there's numbers. Look, I'm not going to go down that path because I couldn't explain it with the definition, but basically you have a certain number that you want to hit, and that number is tracked during practice. You'll see in the games, or most of us are wearing vests with trackers, and say the number is 900. You'll try and get to that 900 during practice, and then in the game you're trying to get to that as well. So it changes for each guy.
So yeah, the catapult system that you guys wear, people might not realize that you wear that in game and at trainings sometimes. Or actually, do you guys wear it all the time at training?
We do. It is a catapult, is what we wear. We wear it pretty much every single training session, every single game. Some of the arenas have like a tracker on how long and how much you've run as well. So, you can sit down, much like the AFL does, you can sit down and say, well, you ran this many kilometers in this game and your heart rate was this, and your, level was this, and then over the course of a quarter of a year, they sit down and they say, well, in this game, your numbers were considerably down compared to that game. Like, is there a reason for that? Is your performance tied to that number? Do you play better if your numbers are higher, or are your numbers too high, and therefore it's affecting your ability to shoot at a better rate? So those are all discussions that come into it. And if your numbers have been too high consistently, there's a fair chance that you're going to maybe have a training off because your body needs it.
It's interesting. The Brisbane Bullets found that they noted Magnay's numbers had dropped in some of his trainings, and when they investigated, found that he had glandular fever or something to that effect. And they were trying to count. He was still training, but they looked at the numbers and said, "Well, this is where it normally is. What's going on?" And he wasn't slacking off. There was something going on, and they actually did some tests and found that he was. I think it was glandular. He may correct the record.
Yep.
But yeah, I believe he was found to be unwell or had a virus or something or an infection that they weren't even aware of at the time. So at that level where there's some money being paid for athletes to perform, it's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit hard too for athletes on that system. It is about load management. It is what it is, but at the same time, it also prevents people from cruising because there should be a consistency across the numbers, so people can be found out if they're sort of not pulling their weight, so to speak. So yeah, I thought I'd just get you to clarify on that. Now I can see some carbs there on the bench. So what's your diet like pre-season, main season, off season? What is an athlete like you doing with their diet?
So again, it depends on who you are. Some guys really need to be a lot stricter than others just because of who they are, their genetics, or some guys need to be heavier for the position they play and the minutes you play. If you're playing 40 minutes a game and you're training every day, you could probably afford to eat a little differently to someone who isn't if you want to maintain that same shape. So each guy's different. For myself, I used to eat a lot of carbs, and I think I love pasta and rice. But as I started to play a little bit more professionally, I think I curbed that a little bit. In the last few years, I've somewhat changed shape, slimmed down a little bit, and I think the difference has been that I eat carbs before a game to fuel and to recover. And other than that, during season, I'm probably not eating a bunch of pasta and rice throughout the week. I obviously love my meat and all that, but I just got into eating different things other than just spaghetti bolognese every night, which was really my Spanish diet. So I think that was a decision that has to be found with the players and the professionals. The nutritionist, the strength and conditioning guy might have to say about it. Everyone's different.
Do you have a pre-game meal that's a ritual for you?
I don't have a ritual meal. I'll get scorned for this, but I used to love and still like eating palmies on game day. So traditionally, I don't eat a massive breakfast. If anything, I might have a piece of fruit or a muesli bar or something like that. We have a shoot around in the morning, and then I come back, and that's when I really eat. So I really want to eat after shoot around, and I like to have a heavy meal. So it might be pasta, it might be rice, and I probably want a lot of it because I'm not going to eat another meal before the game. So if that's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 6 o'clock, doesn't matter. I'll snack. I might have again another banana or a yogurt or something like that. But I'm not going to eat dinner until 10, 11 p.m. After the game's finished. So for me, I really like to eat big at lunchtime, and then that gives me the whole afternoon to just chill out and rest and recover and get ready for the game.
No worries. I've just had some stuff handed to me. So Benita McLeod shouting out to you, James Rosenau, to me, uh,
Howdy.
Brendan Alder, and we got Jacob Dean, who's an athlete that did some work with Oz Swish, who plays for the Wizards. Actually, he's gone to Rip now. I won't say he plays for the Wizards, but his dad was on the board at Wizards. But they've moved clubs. But so they're saying hello. You probably Leanne's actually his mum's just popped in the chat as well. So Rod,
I've got some questions over here as well.
no worries, go for it.
On my little stream. So Marcus has asked, who's my favorite teammate that I've ever played with, which is a tough question because I've played in a lot of different areas and a lot of different teams. I said before, Nick Kay is super easy to play with. I think anybody who's played with Nick will tell you that, whether it's been at the World Cup or whatever it was. Versatile and great teammate, puts others before himself. Other two teammates I've had, Jared Weeks and Cam Glidden in Cairns, were incredible to me as someone who was new to the NBL, and especially off the floor, really helping me settle in and have some people to really go and talk to. They helped me a lot there, and some of my mates to this day. My Melbourne teammates, guys like Chris Golding and David Barlow have been great leaders and people who I have learnt a lot from just being around every day and how they go about business and how the dynamics of the league and hearing stories from them on how it was and how it is now will help me in the future as well. And then another guy, I mentioned him before, Urko Otegi in Spain, a guy that owed me nothing as a new, Australian over there trying to make a living. Again, I wasn't a big money player. I was just a guy trying to fill his role. And the efforts that he went to, he could speak English, but he went the extra mile. Would invite me to go take his family and would make sure that I'm on the court and off the court. And always, whether bad game or good game, was always there to pick me up and say, "Hey, attack, shoot more." So I appreciated that because it would have been really easy for him to just be like, "Oh, I'll just stick with my guys," but he didn't.
Yeah, and that's good that you recognise those traits in different individuals. I've got one there that I want to ask about is Golding, because when
Mm-hmm.
he's going, and I mean get going as a shooter. How does that motivate your team? Because it seems like when he's on, the whole team is a buzz. So
Mm.
what's that do? What does it do for your team when you know he's on?
Chris is super charismatic. The energy, he can suck the energy out of a room with one comment. He can be very direct and very straight. Everyone, he is a guy that demands, I guess, respect because of what he's done in this league and some of the games that he's had. When I was growing up in Brisbane, Chris was, with the Bullets and then with the Blaze, and he was the young, energetic guy that I used to go watch, and he'd be the athletic one that was making all the crazy play. As someone who was young and up and coming, I used to love watching him play. And then to see how he has changed his game, I know a lot of people like to hate on Chris, but his ability to flick the switch is something that I'm working on, but will never have. It's something that he is very special at. And with the right around him, it's that Melbourne team, for example, when I was playing for Cairns, was at times just like I don't really know what we do right now. Like Chris and Casp, Casey Prather, Ty Wesley, if they're all clicking, it was like, man, I don't really know what to do right now. And Chris is that kind of guy that once he gets in that rhythm, it doesn't matter really. He'll shoot where he wants to, and he'll take as many dribbles as he wants. And it seems like that game against Sydney, game 2, was our whole team. Like Chris can do that, at any moment in
Mm.
any game.
Do you think he thrives on the toughest moments when guys are down? That there's something that clicking tends to come at a time that it's most needed. That there's something in him as an athlete that actually it just it's game time. He reminds me, and he's still got a long ways to go. And I putting him up there on a pedestal next to a guy that was similar to him, which is Shane Heal. Same sort of guy, just take over the game shooting. But at a time when it's most needed, that he just takes it to another level when it's needed. So when I've watched him play, that's what I notice. That said, I also feel if he's having an off game, it can go the other way too. But when he's on, it seems like the whole and when he chooses to turn that switch, flick that switch, it's one of those things. So I had a question here. Have you got another question there actually in your group chat
Um,
or shout
don't think
outs?
there's a bit of old banter going on between some old family friends. But that's about it. I don't see any other questions.
That's all right. So, someone asked, can you list your five toughest opponents from 5 to 1? So, who are the guys that you found that were a challenge to you? Not necessarily to this, not now, but at the time, maybe. Who are the guys that you found most challenging? Whether you either succumb them, or overcome rather, not succumb to them, but overcome them, or still battling. But you probably don't want to tell who you battle against still.
Yeah, hard question because I've played against so many different great players. One of them would be under 19s World Championship. I was fortunate enough to get a few minutes against the USA team. And in the wing spot, which was really where my minutes came from, they had Tim Hardaway Jr. and
Mhm.
Jeremy Lamb. And at that point in time, they were men. They had long arms, they were grown, they were athletic. The whole team were freak athletes. And so to compare myself to them, at the time, I still felt like my game was transitioning, and they knew all about their game already. So it wasn't so much intimidating. We actually we went down by one. As a team, like played really well, but just to see where those guys were at already in their game, and they were pretty much ready for the NBA at that age. They were two guys that I was like, wow, like this is pretty cool, I guess, knowing that they're going to be in the league in another year or so. In this league, in the NBL right now, Scotty Hopson is really awkward to guard at times. He's obviously very talented, and it's fun to match up against him because he's competitive and he likes to talk a lot, and he often gets the job done. He's very herky jerky, likes a good fadeaway, and sometimes when guys are, it's like the old Dirk story, when they get that good at that shot, it really doesn't matter. Like if you contest, they're that confident with it, and Scotty can be a bit like that with his fadeaway sometimes. Bryce Cotton is obviously on another level when it comes to how they help him be the best version of himself. And when he gets going, like how we talked about with Chris, when Bryce gets that killer mentality, you can see it in his eyes. Whether you're watching it on TV, whether you're in the arena or playing against him, you can see the switch in his head. So those are probably a few guys that come to mind, but I mean, there's been so many others.
Yeah, we also had a question of who are you learning most from these days? So where are you doing your learning? And as an NBL player, how hard is it to keep like you can never know everything there is to know in basketball, but how hard is it to keep finding that information you need to take your game to another level?
Yeah, it is. I feel like I'm constantly learning, which is great. It's every year a new player comes in the league and plays a different way, and teams adjust. And especially, when you talk about imports, look at the impact that DJ Newball, Machado, and Oliver had for that Cairns Taipans team. You knew where the ball was going at times. You knew their offenses, but they were still able to produce because they just played a certain way together. And we had to make some massive adjustments, and we really struggled with that as a team to contain those three guys. So I think it's just about constantly learning because the game evolves. 10 years ago, the game was played drastically different than it is today. And I'm sure, everyone will tell you that even at an international level, every World Cup, there's going to be a new theme. Flow was the thing of, everybody was running this flow offense. In 5 or 10 years, I doubt anyone will run the flow offense. It'll be all completely new, and there'll be new things that everyone in the world and the way it's linked today. If someone runs something, everyone's got it tomorrow. So, you have to be constantly evolving.
Yeah. So we're coming up to an hour. So what I'll do is I won't hold you too much longer. I will ask a couple more questions and just give other people the opportunity to throw in a question, a quick fire sort of question. So
No,
with, if you've joined us late, we've been talking with Mitch McCarron. This will be up on YouTube and on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch. I feel like I'm missing one. I probably am. Oh, and Vimeo. There you go. So there's definitely going to be a tattoo, probably, or put it on my grave. But yeah, all those platforms, they need just one platform. But so if you're watching, then and you have a last minute question for Mitch, then Macca, please take a moment to throw the question out there. And while I've got the mic, don't forget to subscribe to People with a Passion on YouTube if you haven't yet done so, and also like the People with a Passion Facebook page. So you can check out the videos there. I've interviewed some amazing people across about their passions, and there's some interviews with just about everyone there. There's 34, and then I've got 10 live streams that I've done with I think 6 or 7 of the NBL. I guess icons of the NBL right now. So Macca being one of them. So Joey Wright, Bevo. Obviously they're not there at the moment in the NBL, but I think they'll be back. And then we've got Kadee and Big Joe. So we've had a few conversations in the live streams. But so if anyone's got a question, quick shout it. What I'll do is anyone got a question there?
I've got one over here. Sorry,
Yep.
Craig. Andrew Thomas asked about advanced statistics and how often they're used and how they're used and whether they're customized in our league and professional sports. And the answer is yes, they are heavily. Some teams use them a little less. I couldn't tell you about every other club because I haven't been there. But for the teams, Aaron Fern had a certain way about using certain statistics that he thought were incredibly important, and others that he kind of went, I don't think that impacts us necessarily the way that we play. Dean Vickerman, for example, uses other statistics that are very important to him and what he believes are successful for the program and have been in the past for him. So it is customizable, I should say, for each team and what they feel like suits their program or what they're really trying to hit, I should say. A team take, I don't want to speak for him, but take a Joey Wright team. They're going to be trying to hit certain numbers, whether it be points scored or possessions, more possessions than the other team because that's the way they play. Whereas traditionally a Perth Wildcats or a Cairns Taipans team of the past, they're not going to be trying to even go near that total. They're going to be a lot more focused on defensive percentage. and what are their goals in terms of keep teams under a certain score so that we can finish higher than that. It's different mentalities for different programs and different coaches.
Is there anything you want to add for any athletes that might be watching that are young who haven't started some of the journey that you've had that aspire to potentially be in the AIS or make a state team, starting at the level and going through and then going potentially to college and then on a pathway to Europe and the NBL? So pretty much following the same, well, and even Australian representation, because they're all the things you've done in the space of probably 10 to 12 years. So that's pretty amazing when you think about the time frame that what's possible with hard work. So, is there anything you want to say to those athletes that want to follow this as a journey?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot I could say. I think it's really basic advice. The difference that I noticed in as a junior was probably when I made the switch from really, yeah, I like playing basketball and I'd love to do it when I'm older, or like, no, I'm going to do it when I'm older. And there was certain people, whether it was a career advisor at my high school, that was like, oh, maybe you should think about something else. And, 2 or 3 years before, I would be like, oh, maybe a bit scared by that. I was in a fortunate enough position where I was confident that if I kept working and I kept training, I would attain that goal, and I would make a living out of it. So I had a belief change, I suppose I should say, and I started competing every day. And I spoke about when I was in under 18s and I started scoring more. It wasn't just the scoring. I think it was more that I was just competing. I was trying to win all the time. And not to be like, oh, cliche MJ, I'll do whatever it takes to win. But I just made a switch mentally. It was a lot more like, oh, rather than get through this thing, I was like, oh, training's a chance for us to scrimmage, because that year that's all we did. So it was sweet because I was like, sweet, a chance to go win, a chance to go compete. And I was annoyed if we didn't win. And I think that's really when I started getting better. I cared a lot more about the result, and if you're doing that every single day, you're going to have positive results in the end. But yeah, I mean, I look back and people do ask like, oh, you had to make sacrifices along the way, and you had to give up certain social aspects, and you had to give up this and that. Was it worth it? Absolutely. I mean, look what basketball has done for me, and the places that I've gone. I got paid education in university. That's something that I would never have dreamed of as a young kid. And now I'm making a living out of something that I've loved since I was 1 year old. So it's pretty special. But yeah.
So, just before we finish up, are there any shout outs you want to give? Now, I recommend you don't just give them to people in the chat, because this video does stay up and will be up on YouTube and that. So, on the Cal and CJ Bruton interview from last week, we actually have had 1,000 more views than the original live stream, just to give you a feel for it. So if you've got any shout outs you want to make to anyone potentially that you might share this with or that might see it, then take your moment now to say, and even some old school coaches and things that you felt have benefited you along your journey, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, there are, as I said, I've played on umpteen teams. I can't even remember. So firstly, I mean, everyone knows like how important my parents were, and that's something that I'll never forget. Definitely the coaches as juniors. I know as kids, it's so easy to be like, oh no, I just don't want to do what I want to do. But if I didn't have coaches care that much, again, I wouldn't be sitting here and doing what I do today. So obviously a special shout out to those people. But I think along the way, for me, it was just about the friends that I made, the networks that I made. That's really the cool thing about sports in general, not just professional sports, but relationships along the way. The amount of friends I have, around the world, and people that I can reach out and be like, oh man, tell me about your life in America, or tell me about your life in Spain. That's the really cool stuff, and I think so. I got to thank everybody that's been a part of my journey for that.
That's awesome, mate. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for everyone who's been watching tonight. on the live streams. As I say, the video will stay up, so make sure you check out the video. Again, please take time to subscribe. I'm trying to build up my subscriber base on YouTube. It is so hard, but go up and have a look at the channel and see if it's something you might be interested in. Same as the Facebook page. Give the Facebook page a like, because there will be more live streams hopefully next week if I can get Nick Kay to say yes. I also had Rod Tremlett in the which he said yes pretty much, but I've got to get the confirmation.
Unrelenting on Nick Kay. The pressure is mounting.
Yeah, no, he'll do it. He popped in earlier and he would have seen you on, and it's probably the only way he's seeing you at the moment, other than on the court, is it? So pretty much, yeah. So there was someone else that popped in that I was going to say. That oh yeah, Rod Tremlett from the Northern Territory. So he's the coaching director in charge of NT basketball. So I have hit him up too, because I want to make sure all states are represented. So Cal was in Canberra last week. So the only one that then leaves, and I already have spoken to someone in Perth, but if I get to Nick, that'd be good. But is Tassie. So we'll hit up Tassie. I might hit up someone from the Phoenix. Maybe Stacks might be up for a chat. So Ian Stacker. So yeah, I will be still every Thursday night, 8 p.m, doing live streaming with friends. Normally an NBL person, but not always. But I do appreciate your time, mate. You've been more than great. You've been a champion. So I really appreciate your time, and wish you luck when the season hits. And congratulations on your marriage, and hope that you have many, 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 many anniversaries down the track together.
Thank you for your time. Quick shout out to the Jebs legends.
Thanks, mate. Take it easy. See you guys next week. Catch you later.